That's right. Fire me up. Fire me up for another episode of the Real Live Show. It's going down, just so you know, and it's going down. And I mean all the way down. Hell down, okay? It's going down. And as we give you another episode, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel on the Spotify, The Real Lil Show, on the YouTube, The Real Lil Show, on the Can You Dig Sports Radio Network, weekdays from 10 p.m. Eastern Time to 12 a.m. Eastern Time. We are live. And when I tell you we got an episode, I just told you we got an episode because we do have an episode, okay? And I got my girl, Shaw Michelle, back on the show. And I know she means business, especially today. I mean, she called me by my government name. I mean, this woman is serious right now. Okay. So I'm going to shut up and pass over the mic and introduce my girl, Shaw Michelle. Shaw, how you feeling today?
First of all, Lil, it is always a pleasure to see you, to hear your voice face to face. Wonderful. Thank you. And let me tell you, when you called me, the reason why I called you by your full government name is because I feel like we're in the times where we should know who we're on the phone with. Right? It's getting very interesting out there, to say the least. So this show is also going to address the interesting nature. So there's a segue into why I would call Lil out his government name from the top of it. But we have to have some sort of some truth, because a lot of chaos and fiction is happening in this world.
It is. And since the last time you've been on, a lot has happened in the world, including the Jeffrey Epstein emails, about 3 million emails that came out recently. And I got to talk about it briefly on a previous episode. So I want to kind of ride shotgun and then obviously give my take in there. But I want to start you off because we haven't got to hear your opinions on it, at least on this show. I know you do your show as well. What was your biggest takeaway, would you say? Because it's not like anything really surprised me. I'm pretty sure with your mind, nothing in there really surprised you. But if it was one thing that stood out in those emails, what was it?
What? Well, here's the thing. I personally, I'll start like this, and that's a good question to start off. What stood out in the emails? I made it a point. I have been on this crusade of sorts with the Lord. I have been a servant of the Lord right now. And when I say that, I mean I've been off social media. I've been rolling out of bed when he says put something on YouTube. It's go time. It don't matter. You ain't got to get dressed up. You got to do the work that God puts in front of you. So I try to just separate myself from it all, right? But then, you know, with my mind, I got to go, okay, well, I do have to do this show and I have to see what's going on in the news. And God is so good. God knows that I really enjoy doing this podcast. So I went over and jumped over to social media. I said, let me see what's happening with this Epstein stuff. Now, mind you, this is like going when you're in a pure space with the Lord. You're reading the Bible. You're just like, yeah, I don't care about none of that. Wars breaking out all over the place. I got peace. Jesus is the peace. And then I go in there and it's set it little. When I tell you that no one talks about how you can go from being quiet, like I said, like on a silent crusade with the Lord, to getting just over onto social media to scroll. It was like my eyes were open. It was like a circle of, like on the cartoons when the circle goes. I was like, and I was shocked. So now also, I think I've spoken about it before on the show, but I studied law. I studied political science, criminal justice, sociology. So I thought at one point I either work for the agencies like intelligence or that I would work for, as a lawyer. But then I realized very early on that I take a lot in. I take a lot of whatever I'm looking at or reading. It almost feels like it's heavy, like it's my own. So I thought that might not be a good career for me to go into, because it would be hard for me to separate the case from my personal life. So I decided no, and then I moved into a different career. Been modeling for the past however many years. So, but that was one of the reasons, because as soon, and that's a segue, so roll with me here. As soon as I looked at Instagram and I started to see, because my algorithm's cooked, with all of the stuff that I'm interested in, which is like all of the conspiracy theories, which later on comes out to be just fact wrapped in a
Oh, we
really
winning right
hard
now.
wrapped in a really hard truth. Exactly. So I go and look at it and I'm like, oh my gosh. And so I was looking. So you know how my mind works, Lil. I looked and I said, they were like, oh, I saw an email that said, I enjoyed the torture video. And I was like, and my mind zoomed in. I was like, that's from BlackBerry. Then I was like, oh, I was like, everything else said from iPhone. All the other emails that just it didn't stand. I was like, that's it from BlackBerry. So I was like, and then I saw somebody said that it could be the Crown Prince or something. And then he goes, or it could be Netanyahu because he was here during these times. And I go, oh, it's Netanyahu because he was like, do you have an iPhone? He sat down and addressed American politicians. Do you have an iPhone? Do you have an iPhone? Yeah, you got a piece of Israel with you. And I was like, hell no, because what happened was Israel sent Iran those pagers and they blew up years later. Everybody, I don't know if you knew that story. I reported on it on Sign of the
Yeah.
Times radio, but they had these pagers last year that blew up in people's stomachs flying out, people's chests, wherever they put the thing. It once they ignited it, it blew up. Sounds crazy when you say it out loud, but they use these devices as pocket bombs, let's just say, for lack of better words. And
You
so
know
the
what that
fact that
reminds me of, Shaw, as you talking, I'm gonna let you get right back to it. There's a movie called The Belko Experiment. I'm not sure if you seen that.
no, but I know you have because you're a movie buff. Tell
Yeah,
me.
definitely. It was a movie in which there were people in the building and they had explosives or something inside of them and it kept going off, like, and people were dying.
Well, there you go. There's your karmic retribution jump off right there. So that's what they've done. And when he said that, see, these are things that I saw this and did this. No, I watched mannerism. So he's like, hey, he's like as a matter of fact, you got an iPhone, you got a piece of Israel with you. I was like, oh no. So no one needs to be carrying this. I'm like, wow. So needless to say, I saw BlackBerry. I thought that might be him. So went and did some research, and he, of course, is not carrying for the most part in the iPhone at all. He was carrying a different phone, and it had the stickers on the thing. So I thought that might be him. Anyways, the torture. Now they're trying to switch it and say it was somebody else. So what I did, Lil, fast forward past that, the torture, I put in my mind, that's Netanyahu. Then I go, well, let me just verify it so I can get a picture to screenshot it for my Sign of the Times radio podcast artwork. And I go to Meta in Instagram and I type in Epstein torture. And I just thought it would come up with, or not, yeah, Epstein torture. And I thought it would come up the email that said, I enjoy the torture video. Oh my gosh. No, no. It showed me everything I did not want to ever see in my life. My heart's broken. My head's cracked. Everything. I'm like, there are so many things, Lil, that now I'm going to tell you what. You can't get darker. So all that to say is what stood out to me. What stood out to me, Lil, is that you can't get any darker than this. All the cards are on the table.
Yeah.
What's next is God saying, taking my church with me, and I'm about to destroy this thing. I promise you. I promise you, I have been not been more sure of that than now because and not because this hasn't been happening forever, not because this is, of course it's been happening forever. The point is that it's out there for all to see. These things were mostly hidden, right? These things were mostly hidden, and God's taking a record of everything. Don't get it twisted. But some things are just allowed to happen because we live in an evil, fallen world. But now that we have to see it, everybody has to see it, the cards on the table, that means the evil gets to thrive. All these evil governors, all these people, these elitists, whatever, which is basically Ephesians 6. We battle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, powers, rulers of darkness, and evil governors of this world is exactly what we're looking at. So all that to say is that's what we're looking at now. We're looking at all the cards being on the table. And I'm just wondering, Lil, I don't think anybody's ever addressed this. It's just a thought. Whatever happened to good old fashioned citizens arrest?
Yo, I want to get there in a minute because you bring up a point that I had planned to bring up, and we're gonna bring that up in a couple minutes. What
I'm
stood out
just
to
saying.
me?
Why? When we see it, we've seen
No,
it.
I
They
feel
release
you.
the
Trust
files.
me.
They redacted some
I've
things.
talked to my people about that,
They
but we'll
redacted.
touch on that.
Well, they redacted some things, so you can't say, "Well, I can't arrest you." We already heard Pam Bondi say, "If we were to pursue legal routes for everything, the whole system will flatline." Well, duh, that's what we
Yeah,
need. But also, at the end of the day, these things just have to happen. We can't unsee what we have seen. But the funny thing about it is, by human nature, the natural nature of human beings is to think about it for a little bit, and then this won't even be a thing in about a month from now, because something else, eating children, having the children, won't even be a thing in about 2 weeks from now. Is this like that's what I'm saying? Like my when I say tell you my mind is broken, everything in me is broken. Let alone, can you imagine the things that I had to witness just by typing torture? I thought I was gonna get an email screenshot. I was like, oh my gosh.
yeah. I mean, I'm gonna tell you what stood out to me, and what stood out to me was I thought at least that Jeffrey Epstein was a pebble. And in some ways, he was a pebble because the world is deeper and bigger than Jeffrey
Oh,
Epstein, right? But I didn't realize how high up he was in this whole entire thing. Like, this guy was on the Trilateral Commission. This dude was a player, okay? And he was right up there. And you sometimes get in positions, right? You see celebrities. A lot of people say the average folk worship and idolize celebrities, right? And yeah, that's true. A lot of people worship celebrities even though they shouldn't, right? Especially when you get information like this, when you see the Epstein files and all the people that was connected to him and what they were actually doing, you should say you shouldn't worship celebrities. But in some ways, celebrities actually worship other celebrities. You see these guys that may have not have done anything to children, but Epstein comes and say, "Let's take a picture," and you're ready to take a picture because he's a big guy, and you want to be involved with that type of crowd, right? And that's where I find some of the people are not the ones that actually did things to children, but the ones that were probably rich and famous that idolize other rich and famous people, and then now you get caught up into something, right? Think about it.
uh,
Blackmail is a thing,
yeah.
and we know blackmail is how the world is ran. A lot of people can't come out and talk about this because guess what? They got a video on them. Whether it's something that they agreed to, or whether they was out there at a party and getting a jiggy on, and then somebody gay comes out of nowhere and they set it up, and then now they got caught up into something. That could happen as well. You could get dragged into anything when you're in that environment because you want to be around famous people so bad. You idolize celebrities, even though you are one.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, when you
Yeah.
have people like Trump that is in pictures with Jeffrey Epstein. Now, from the files I've seen and the emails that I've seen, it doesn't really indict him because there was a report that came out and said that he actually called the police and told them about Jeffrey Epstein and whatnot. However, him trying to be, and Trump is that type of dude. Like, he wants to take pictures with a lot of people. I think Trump is a guy who is like one of the people in school where he want to hang with the big dogs, right? That's the vibe I get from Trump. Anybody who's a big player, he want to hang with the big dogs. That's when you could get dragged into this because we already know. Say what you want. This could be a show, but the media clearly doesn't like him and whatnot. And I think where Trump needs to grow up and be held accountable is release it all. Don't come here and release some and say, you know what? Well, guess what? I did more than what Biden did because we all know that Biden didn't release nothing and nothing was going to get released with Biden or Kamala. Fair. But don't just sit here and say, okay, we release some of the files. That's it. Nah. If you don't release everything, then you are a part of it and you must be held accountable just like everybody else in those files. That's how I look at it.
Well, that's a good alternative outlook, and of course, anybody can take a picture. And I actually said that to my kids. It's like my youngest son was like, "Oh, someone's trying to follow me on Instagram," and it was like, let's just say like jelly toast 85351. I was like, well, that seems very generic. I'm like, what is that? And he's like, oh, but three of my friends are following them. I go, and that's how they catch you up. And so this guy so this person texts or is like DMing, and he's like, so how old are you? I said, block. I was like, if that, he's like, it must be a friend because my friends knew him. I was like, see, that's how they get you. So that person saw that one person follow him, and they follow him. Meanwhile, they telling all the business. That's
Yeah,
how
I remember I
people.
went to college one time and there was a guy that I guess I must have seen him a couple times on campus. I never really had a dialogue with the dude. One time I went to a party, he was there. He was like, "Yo, I like your fit, your outfit. Let's take a picture." And we took a picture. Like I said, that guy could have murdered two, three people along the way. I don't know the dude.
Right. Right. So that's the thing is right. Like you said, you were saying some people are celebrities who are fans of other celebrities. And they're like, well, they was with that person.
Yeah,
I want to take a picture too. So yes, that is absolutely a possibility. On the other hand, with Trump, there's too much smoke. And where there is smoke, there's fire. So I don't know. I've never been in a room with him doing anything or anybody else or Jeffrey Epstein or anybody else. But I know that there are people who say they have, and where there are more than one witness that says that they've done something, that something precarious has happened with him. I mean, you got the whole, he went through the cases even up his past presidency with the ladies on the plane that was, and the kids. He has too much going on. There was another case I just saw recently with Sasha, this guy named Sasha, and he said he had jammed a broomstick up Trump's, you know, and now this dude can't even hold his poop. So I don't know, man. I think that you got to look into that story. I think we should stop, trying to go to bat for people who aren't willing to go to bat for you. If he wanted to, he could, and he's redacting names that should be seen. You don't protect people who are predators. You protect the people who were victims. That's it. If you are in that, whether it was just a photo or not, if you're a photo, people are going to leave you alone. If there's nothing else there, it's fine. But the point is, it's been going on too long, and it's children. At one point, it was like women were off the table, and that would have been hard. It would have been a hard, like thing to deal with if it were a woman. But now we're like, okay, fine. If it was women, it was fine. If it was of age, fine. But now we're talking about children. I want to know everything and everyone. And the thing is that if you look more enough, that's what the Bible says. Don't look for too much. Don't search for too much wisdom, because it's hard. Once you know too
yeah.
much, you're like, you can't unknow it.
I mean, a lot of people obviously want the full files to be released, but the question is, can people handle that?
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
it's one thing to want it, but it's another thing. Can people handle the satanic stuff that has been going on that probably is beyond their comprehension? So be careful what you ask for. What we want is justice. And Shar, that leads me to my next question for you. And you mentioned it briefly. Should Americans just be content with no accountability? Could they just bury this under the rug, no arrest, knowing what we know, knowing that the truth is out there? Even the people that's blind could realize that this is going on. There got to be some accountability, right? You would think that okay, if there's not going to be justice from politicians and whatnot, that people is going to come out and hang some people by trees, literally on the tallest tree you can find. They got to be. And listen, you can say I'm getting radical and whatnot, but you would think, because when somebody goes to jail that may have touched kids and whatnot inappropriately, they get their ass handed to them in jail. Okay,
Yeah.
they get their ass handed to them in jail. Now we talking about corrupt politicians that rape your pockets every single day. I mean, we all getting raped in one way or another. Some people physically, some people financially. There got to be something. Maybe we stop paying taxes. I mean, what's the accountability?
Well, that's the thing is, are you willing to continue funding underground cities with baby farms and like I can't get some things out of my head that I have either heard about. I didn't see this, but when I even it's in my head, I can't they said the youngest victim wasn't in the biblical court. There was a picture of this guy and this girl, and they had a little baby. This baby had to be about 4 weeks old, and they're like, great. So you're telling me I can't. Like, oh my gosh, what kind of evil? So all that says is that we're not dealing with, we're not, if there was ever a time to prove the case that there's some lizards or some demons that are actually walking around with skin suits on, this would be the time. This would actually be the time, because I don't see how human beings with any kind of soul in their body would participate in this. And a lot of these people knew that he was a convicted felon after this. A lot of these files after. And you asked a good question. What are people going to do? What did they do? 3 million files. Here's what I would have did. First of all, I ain't got time to read 3 million files. I'm going to go ahead and feed it into the AI meter and tell me to put it in a 5-minute podcast so I can hear what I need to hear. Separate the names, the sheep from the goats, who's innocent, who's not, do your job, and then let ChatGPT give me a
Yep.
because I ain't got time. I don't endorse ChatGPT or none of that AI, but you know what I'm saying, to save me some time, I wouldn't have thumbed through it myself. I ain't got no. I so when people heard about it, when people started to see it, when people typed in Epstein torture and they saw what do you plan on doing? No one's done a thing. No one's done a thing but make a bunch of videos. Like, who the heck do we think we
I
are?
mean,
Some
we have a
video
lot
martyrs?
of. I think what it is too. We have a lot of people that society and the government has really taken complete control to the point where people are scared, too busy to really think of anything beyond their own individual lives and trying to, you know, find whatever success means to them, the American dream, whatever is left of that. And they're more tied up into that to the point where, and they know the repercussions of some people stepping out and whatnot, how they get killed and whatnot. But if people came together and really got on that street justice type of move, to me, that's the only way. That's the only way, because Shaw, like I said, these people are raping everybody. Some physically, unfortunately, and some financially. Like, that's why everybody's lives are miserable, because
Yeah.
you have this group of elite people that want to make it to where most Americans own nothing.
So
They don't own a home. A lot of people, that was the golden standard. That was something that you were, you know, it was obvious you was going to do. Be married at a certain age, be able to own a home at a certain age and whatnot. That was common. That was a common thing. Matter of fact, I have the stats right here to back it up in front of me right now. Back in the day, we are talking 1960, 52% of Americans by 30 years old were married and own a home. That
really,
dropped down to 48% in the 70s. Then it dropped down to 45% in the 80s. Then it dropped down to 43% in the 90s. Then 35% in the 2000s. And now in 2025, that's 12%. There's some people that's walking the earth right now that is around my age that has come to the reality that maybe they would never own a home.
ever.
And that's because these people, these billionaires, these few people that Jeffrey Epstein was a part of, said, you know what? We are going to extract the wealth from the people and everybody else will be slaves. And again, this has to be the straw. It's one thing to be a slave financially and be in that hamster wheel and be caught up in the matrix. But when we talk about children and what happened to those children that is going on, okay, we saw the movies. We saw Sound of Freedom. I watched that movie with my moms and my niece. Okay, we knew this was going on. But now to get the evidence that is going on, there got to be some people that wakes up. This got to wake people up.
Well, we would hope that there would be some people that would wake up, but at the same time, I think what it is and what it all has to do with is the fact that life and human individuals, people who are failing, infallible, who are not going to be perfect, are going to run this world, are going to be in power, are going to be your bosses, are going to be in control. And so this world as it is not, and that would be, statistically speaking, not sustainable for healthy ownership and human existence for ownership. And they've talked about that. Well, WEF, that was their main branding. You will own nothing and be happy. So they're on
Yep.
brand. with that lifestyle. So then that goes to show me, as angry as I am, as upset as it makes me feel to know all that I know, and I don't even know a lot. I stop there when I type that in. So I don't even want to go through all the other stuff. They're eating human. Okay, like, okay.
Yep.
So what I'm saying is, and then they're feeding the humans to unknowing suspects by putting it in the fast food. I've been talking about
Yep.
this forever. This has been
McDonald's.
for a good
Yeah.
6 years. So, and that's
Sean, let me ask you this question real quickly.
sure.
Speaking of that, these COVID shots, that people injected in their arms, folks, I'm about to get real diabolical here because, at the end of it all, I came to the realization that this is a
It's up.
podcast,
It's
but
up.
right now, this is real life too.
Yep.
So everything will get spilled. These COVID shots that y'all took, not me, that y'all took, y'all idiots that fell for the okey doke. Okay. What are in those shots exactly? Because one thing about Jeffrey Epstein, and this is another thing that stood out, because yeah, I knew about the Epstein Island. I knew exactly what was happening based off of my common sense, when it comes to children going to an island and whatnot. Like, come on. I knew all that, right? But what I didn't know was he was into this DNA type of stuff and he wanted to create his own, I guess, race and whatnot. That leads me to
Well,
believe what is in those shots,
of
really?
course.
Because
Come
there
on,
could be a lot of Jeffrey Epsteins walking around, and it may just be your mama.
bro. There is a lot to go. First of all, because they're not just interested in that part of it. Of course, that's what runs them, is the sexual perversion of them, right? But they're interested in playing God, because that's what the devil wanted to do. The devil's main objective is, I want to make my kingdom higher than yours. So he's a knockoff slug that's come down here to wreck shop, and he has control over this earth. We're choosing sides now. Right now, God is not playing around. You either choose this world. We're not. So when you ask me that question, I go, that's the anger. That's in me. That's the human nature of me, is just to be like so beyond. I'm like beside myself. But then I want to step back and say, what would the Lord have me do as a person who's following Christ Jesus, not proclaiming to be a Christian, not none of that. I'm following Christ Jesus because he is the way, the truth, and the life. And there's only one way to the Father, and that's through him. And because I've made him the Lord of my life. And I would say that he said, vengeance is his. He knows what's going on in the dark rooms. He knows what's going on underground. He knows what's going on the islands. He knows what's going on in the middle of the waters. He knows all of that thing, all of those things. And unfortunately, some people, we live in a free world where you have free choice. And some people use their free choice to go ahead and choose evil, to go ahead and choose their lust, to go ahead and choose, I want money and I want to be looked upon and fanned over. Some people just, has bottom line, have chosen that, which makes them not his. We still pray for them. So I, as sick and as angry as I am about all of this, I know that I have to say, Lord, if there is anybody who is in locked in all, because this ain't just one Jeffrey Epstein. Come on, honey. There is thousands of this stuff going on around here
Yep.
and around this world. There's a Jeffrey Epstein in China somewhere. There's a Jeffrey Epstein, and he's just one that connected the dots around because that was his job, right? He's a snake that
There's
just
one in
slipped
Tel Aviv that might be the actual Jeffrey Epstein,
right.
right?
There's everyone. There's Jeffrey Epstein like characters everywhere, is what I'm saying.
I mean,
Players.
there's Jeffrey Epstein's in your own community, in the black community.
100%. Pimps, all them. So I say, I have to say it now, is like, Lord, let people, and I want to tell you, we don't make this earth our home. We have eternity to look forward to. And I want to say this because I don't think people think about this. And I thought about this recently, and I thought, my gosh, I was in a sauna. I think I've said this story before, but I was in the sauna and it was hot. And I was like, And I always go to sauna. That's why I do my workouts. And like people were coming in and out. And I was like, okay, I can stay longer. I want to stay for like 45 minutes, but I'm going to wait till the last person goes out. So I'm the last one in here. Then I'll go out and be like, right. And everybody was coming in and out. And then somebody else would come in. And I was like, okay, I want to get out. But nah, I got to be strong. I got to stay the longest. And I was just playing this mental tough game with myself. And then I was like, I felt like I was on faintly. I was like, okay, this is hot. And so, but the one thing that I had while I was playing this tough guy thing was that once I leave that door, I'm going to breathe some fresh air. I was like, I can breathe. I know that there's fresh air out that door. I know that the water fountain is right next to the sauna. So I can get that fresh air and then I can go and get that water. You know what you don't have when you go to hell? The option of getting some fresh air or or a drop of water on your tongue. Because why? The pit is called the waterless dungeon. So you can spend 1,000,000,000,000 years separate from the creator who made you because you wanted to be a demon and wanted to be famous so bad that you decided to deny Jesus. You can spend 1,000,000,000,000 years in eternal hell and you would just be getting started. It would just be the beginning of it. And you can spend 1,000,000,000,000 more years after that, and you just be getting started. Because eternity is eternal. So people have to get that, grasp that kind of concept. And that's the suffering that we're dealing with. We're suffering. Some people are suffering on earth right now. They're homeless. They can't buy a house, like you just said. They're looking at these Epstein files, and this is crazy. And they're like, what is going on? And then they have no hope because they have no hope in a savior. They have no hope in the Lord. They have no hope because they decided, I want to, use Jesus's name as a swear word rather than make him my Lord. So I have, like you said, this podcast, and we leave this up. We're leaving it on the table here. It is Jesus or nothing. It is the way, the truth, and the life. No other prophet, no other God said that. So because that's the truth, and they all say that they believe in Jesus, we need to know that. And if you tried all else and you failed, try that. Try Jesus, because that is it. Right now, what we have seen, Lil, is so diabolical. And we can continue to talk about these things as we are. But at the end of the day, what's real is that this is about to get destroyed by the wrath of God.
Oh yeah. And I think I think the new world order is already here. And I think with all the information, because we got to realize that we are in the era of information. Whatever was done in the dark is coming to the light. And we are seeing that. So the conspiracy theory people like me and Shaw that y'all laughed at and called us conspiracy theorists and whatnot, we were actually delivering y'all the actual news. And now with the enlightening, you're going to get the new system now. Now you're going to get the people that are about to fall panicking. And that's where your world is going to get even harder. That's where they probably might cut up the whole grid. I just literally saw before I got on the show that YouTube is down. Right? YouTube, a big platform. So what I think is going to happen with all the information going and these people panicking, they seeing their names, being released and people, basically taking off the mask. I think we're going to have, a potential grid that's going to go down. That's how I see it. And when that happens, we'll see how people react to that. Because you have people these days that cannot go 5 seconds without their phone in their hands. And that's the world. That's how they got us accustomed to.
Sports, politics, conspiracy theories. We are here to give you our unique perspectives on things happening in the world. It's the one and only The Real Lil on The Real Lil Show.